If you want to build a business that's fulfilling and fun and profitable and one that makes a difference in the world, then a retreat business might be exactly what you're looking for. The thing is, though, that there are versions of a retreat business that are profitable and life-giving, and there are versions that are exhausting and will burn you out. In this video and in this four-part series, I'll be sharing with you all the best information that I've learned over 12 years of leading a very successful retreat business so that you can learn from my mistakes and you can have a successful and joyful business. The first thing I'm going to get into in this video is the distinctions between a revenue roller coaster, which is a typical retreat model, and a sustained revenue model. The second thing I'll get into is the front-end breakthrough big back-end three-part framework in order to create that revenue engine. And finally, I'll share the one big shift to make sure that this retreat business fills you up instead of burns you out. Here's the problem I see. After 12 plus years of exclusively running retreats instead of large events and working with dozens, maybe hundreds of clients personally, helping them build and grow their retreats businesses, when people come to me, the problem that I see is that they're on the revenue roller coaster. Meaning they are constantly trying to fill a retreat and then they deliver that retreat and it's like, oh, okay, great. All right, let's do it again. And it's like Groundhog Day. The problem with that is that they're starting from zero every time. There's no compounding effect. What makes this model that I'll be sharing with you today different is that every time you deliver transformation in a group experience, you have the opportunity to take some of those clients, the right ones, the ones that really want to keep going, and put them into a longer term program that will deliver revenue for months, years, even a decade or more to come. So the thing about this model is that it doesn't rely on just the upfront enrollments. And it requires a little bit of a, paradigm shift. And that's what I'll be sharing in this first video of this series. So the big solution to the problem of the roller coaster revenue and the unpredictability and the Groundhog Day exhaustion is what I call the big back end. In the big back end model, the retreat is not the end game, it's the beginning. It's a gateway, it's a threshold, it's the way in the door, and it initiates the transformation, but you can never provide an entire long-term deep transformation in just 3 or 4 or 5 or even 7 days. What you can have in that span of time is a massive breakthrough. You can change somebody's life. It can be an inflection point in their life. But true life transformation really takes practice, it takes mastery, it takes ongoing work. Whether you're a coach that specializes in health transformation, spiritual transformation, business transformation, whatever it is you specialize in, you know that there's a version of that transformation that can happen quick. And there's the part of that transformation that needs to take time. So the big back end is where we put that ongoing work that helps people make the day-to-day transformations, the day-to-day practices that they need to sustain transformation. So the beauty of this model is that it really serves both the client because it serves their long-term growth and evolution, and it serves you because when you provide value over time, you get paid for that value. So it's a beautiful win-win model where everyone gets what they need. Let's do this. By the way, before I share the model with you, I just want to take a moment to thank you for watching my video, and I invite you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and shoot me a comment below. Tell me about the retreat business that you're excited to build. Now, one last thing before I get into the model itself, I do want to share a little bit about my personal story so that you know, why you might want to listen to me. I built my business kind of backwards. I started 18 years ago. It's hard to believe now. And when I started my business, I started with big events first. I didn't even know about retreat models and I had no desire to run retreats. I was running these large women's conferences. I was making money on ticket sales and sponsorships, and I was running myself ragged trying to fill those events, get sponsors for those events. And those events were it. That was the business. I was running this business that was basically driven by these 1 day, 2 day, 3 day programs where I had to make all my money in those events. There was no offer for anything on the back end for the first several years. This meant that I was constantly moving from one event to the next event, and I didn't have any sort of foundational revenue, no stability, no real room to breathe. Finally, in 2014, things came to a head. This was unsustainable, as you can imagine, and I had a physical, mental, emotional breakdown. Took my foot off the gas of the business to nurse my broken heart, my body, because I was sick, and the whole business kind of came to a halt, to a screeching halt. And so, long story very short, I met a mentor, and he was running these small retreats, these immersions, he called them. And I saw how beautiful and easy and graceful his business was, because he would do these 3-day immersions and then enroll people into a 1-year program. And he was making more money in a weekend than I was making in 6-8 months of the whole year. So I signed up to work with him, and I asked him to show me the model. So that was back in 2014, and that's when my model was born. And I spent all these years since tweaking, improving, evolving that business model, which is what I'm going to show you now. Oh, and by the way, I should tell you the impact that this had on my business. Whereas 2014 was my most difficult year ever with that breakdown and all that went on, that next year, 2015, was 3 times better than 2014. And in 2016, my business hit 7 figures running this model. So this model changed not only my financial situation, it also changed the kind of work I did. Instead of working with these huge audiences and having to put hundreds of people in seats, I was now getting to work with 10 people at a time. It was going narrow, going deep, and really enjoying my work a lot more and having a lot more freedom. In fact, I even did a road trip in 2015. I spent the entire year running my business from the road, and that's something I would never have been able to do without this model. All right, so there are 3 parts to this business model. There's the front end, there's the breakthrough, and the big back end. The front end is where the initial aha moment lives. This is where the door gets opened to new people. This is where you promote yourself. This is where you get in front of new audiences. This might be your social media. For me, this YouTube channel is part of my front end. Speaking is another part of my front end. That's why I have a lot of videos on speaking. The front end is where you address the original problem that people have and the problem that they know they have. So here's the thing. A lot of times we coaches know a lot about people's problems and what they need to do to fix them. But the problem is we understand the problem so well that we can go really deep and we can start talking about things that people don't even realize are the real problem. So there's the problem people know they have and admit, like, oh, I need to know how to run a retreat business, or I need to make more sales, or I want to be healthier, or I want to stop yelling at my kids and getting frustrated, right? The problem that they know they have is up here up front. Here's where you can address that problem, but what you want to do in the front end is show them what the blind spot is around that problem. Hey, if you're yelling at your kids all the time, it's possible that you are not taking care of yourself and you're getting frustrated and irritated and projecting that out onto them, or whatever else it might be. Like if you want to have a better marriage, you might think that you have to, both of you go to couples therapy, but the blind spot might be, hey, if you change these behaviors in yourself, your marriage might flourish, right? So the front end is where you lead with the problem people know they have, and then you educate them on the real problem. In this video, in my YouTube channel, the problem people have is that they want to build and grow a sustainable coaching practice or business or retreat business. The problem they don't know they have is that they need a big back end, which we'll be talking about more in a minute. So in the front end, you'll lead with the problem they know they have, but you want to educate them about that problem. One of my friends and mentors, Rory Vaden, who's a New York Times bestselling author, his most recent book is called Wealthy and Well Known, that he wrote with AJ, his wife. He says you want to become an ambassador of the problem, so that you are the person that understands the problem better than anything else and educates people about the different layers of the problem, but always lead with the problem they know they have and then educate them on the blind spot or the problem they don't know they have. Don't lead with the problem that they don't know they have. because then nobody's gonna click on it, nobody's gonna watch. So from the front end, the next step is to the breakthrough. Now I put the retreat in here. The retreat is a breakthrough experience, and I advise you to have one core promise or outcome that people will get from your retreat. So it's a transformational experience that generates a very specific outcome. Think about Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within. That's a breakthrough program. It's 4 days, and you are going to completely change the way you think and change your state. Now it's a breakthrough, but it doesn't, and it can change your life, but it's not mastery. It's not everything that Tony Robbins knows. We all know that he has a lot more content, a lot more material. He's not trying to stuff it in here. He's trying to give you one promise, one key transformation. So this could be, right here in this video, we're talking about it being a retreat, but actually it could be other things too. It could be a 3-month program. It could be a 1-day. It could be a 6-week course. It could be a lot of things. But I personally believe that retreats are the absolute best breakthrough because there's an intensity, there's a focus, there's a shutting out of the world that only really happens in these types of experiences. And so the retreat leads to the big back end. And the big back end is where mastery lives, right? This is where the transformation goes to expand and extend. This is where community lives, because community can reflect back transformation. It can be a container that really holds people accountable in their transformation. We're human beings. We evolved in tribes, right? And so being in community can really support that mastery process. And later in this series, we'll get deeper and deeper into how to build this and how to promote it, how to market it, and all of that. The business breakthrough is also where leverage lives. Leverage is the fact that in community, you are going to lead a community whether there's 5 people in there or 10 people or 20 or 30 or 50, right? And by the way, 50 is a lot for this type of model, for the intensity of a retreat model. I've had up to 42 in my one intensive program, so that's kind of an upper limit, at least for me. But other people have grown them bigger just with a lot less high touch, a lot less personal attention. But the leverage part is that no matter how many people you're running, you're investing just a little bit more per additional person because you're already running the weekly calls, let's say. You're already running the retreats, right? So one of the things about the big back end is that you can include in the big back end the retreats. And that is a way to keep this model kind of simple. So they sign up for the retreat, you give them a transformation, then enroll them into this big back end. And part of the big back end is they're going to get more of these. And so that's a way to keep the model leveraged, sustainable, and scalable. Now, I promised you that I would tell you about one big shift that changed everything. And that is what I now call the even bigger back end. So when I ran this model for the first time, that first year, my business grew, exploded. And at the end of that first year, that first client that worked with me, Leanne is her name, she came up to me and she said, well, what happens now? Do we stop working together or can I keep working with you? And that is where the even bigger back end was born. I basically re-enrolled her and I ended up re-enrolling her and other clients into a 2-year agreement. So the even bigger back end is what happens after year 1. And in my case, with the even bigger back end, what I did was I started recruiting the people that are in this program to help me lead this program. So that way there's even more leverage, even more community, right? Because the people that have been working with me for now 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years are very invested in helping the earlier stage people get results. So that's the model, and that's what we're going to dive deeper into in the next 3 videos. So in part 2 of this series, I'll be talking about strategically designing and planning your retreat. In part 3, I'll talk about how to promote and get people enrolled in your retreat, how to sell it. And in part 4, we'll talk about how to run your retreat to optimize enrollments and how to retain clients for years to come. And if you're ready to grow and scale your retreat business and you want my help to do it, let's connect. Visit www.superstaractivator.com/go to explore working with me and my programs to see if and how I might be able to help you build and grow a fulfilling business.